Hey, okay. So there's nothing worse than feeling like you're losing your mind or trying to think of something you're trying to say and you can't quite find the words, or just trying to like work or do your job or keep track of your kids' schedules and all this stuff. I mean, when your brain is firing on all cylinders, it's very frustrating. And the past few days, it's come up a few times. I've spoken to people with brain, like traumatic brain injuries. I've talked to people with brain fog, multiple sclerosis, or people with depression, which is also a brain thing, anxiety, all this stuff. So because it's come up a couple times, I feel like more than normal the past couple days, I felt compelled to kind of share a few of the things that were talked about. Number one, there's something called the Brain Light Pro. Brain Light, like Light Pro. I actually have one. I'm friends with the people that started it, or some people that are at least heavily involved with it, and they're really, really good people. Like they wouldn't be involved in something unless it genuinely was there to help people. And I know that one of the guy's girlfriend's moms has multiple sclerosis, and she's seen such a pretty like fairly dramatic change since using the Brain Light Pro in her memory and overall brain function. And it uses some Rife technology and red light, and it wraps around your head, right on the back here on your spine, and it helps reduce inflammation. And I don't know what else it does. I don't really know the science behind it. I just know that it was made for that. It's the Brain Light Pro. It's made to help your brain. So that could be something you're looking into. My friend that had she got a traumatic brain injury from a car accident, and she's been looking for something like that. So I know she's talking to them, but it's also just for like any kind of brain fog and all that stuff. Number two, another piece of equipment that you can have in your house to help. Also, stuff like this equipment, it can be expensive when you initially buy it, but sometimes some of these places have like a guarantee. If you use it for 30 days and it doesn't help you, your brain isn't functioning, and you use the Brain Light Pro 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. If it doesn't help you, you can return it or resell it. Maybe use it for 6 months. And if you're just like, look, this does not work, like somebody else, like these things just aren't like woo-woo, like, oh, it's just a scam and, it doesn't help anybody. Like, I'm sorry, but there's nothing that works for every single person in the world. There just isn't. But there's a lot of things that help some people. So it's nice to just see if you're one of those people that maybe your issue is one of the issues that they fix. Like, not everyone that has brain fog or bad memory is caused from the same thing. So if it's not caused by the same thing and it's not the same issue causing it, then how can anyone expect one thing fit all, one thing help all? Like, you can't. And that's part of the journey of life, not just for fixing your brain, just in general. It's just like, there's not one life for everyone that will make everyone happy or heal everyone from everything. Like, there's not one anything that helps everybody. So it's just a journey through life of just of self-discovery and using other people's experiences and thoughts and perspectives to kind of like grow our own and create our own path and our own journey. So it's fun. Well, it's not always fun, let's be real, but it is at the end of the day. Okay, so there's the Brain Light Pro, if you want to check that out. And these things are a little bit expensive from the start. Like I said, if they don't work, maybe you can return them or you can resell them to someone else. Right fit for you. Whatever it helps isn't your core issue. Okay, number two. This is another piece of equipment that you can buy or rent and have in your home. You can go get it done. I went and got it done one time, but it's not an issue for me. It's the place had 26 reviews, 5 out of 5 stars, every single one of the 26 reviews. And that is neurofeedback. It's not covered by insurance. And it's equipment that they put these like, oh my God, I've done so many things, I don't remember. I think it's like these electrodes they put on my head, and then it helps your brain run a new neurological pathway. For example, Joe Dispenza says 95% of the thoughts we think every day, we had the day before. That only leaves a 5% of new thoughts, which when you're not living a mindful life, which is a practice, that's why they call it a practice. It's not like the pictures you see on the internet of someone sitting all zen and they just like naturally like that. Like, it's called a practice and it's called work because it's just like going to the gym, but for your mind. Like, it's not like, it's annoying. A lot of this shit's annoying to do, but it's just like going to the gym is kind of annoying. You have to go do it and do the work and put in the effort to get the reward, to get the healthy, you know, to make your brain fit, you know, make your brain sharp, make it swole, you know? So anyways, but yeah, so our brain, we run these same thought patterns all the time, and the neurofeedback is able to go in, does something with some kind of technology where it's the pathway of your brain. So it's good for people with PTSD. It's actually best for people with epilepsy. They have the most success with epilepsy. It's called neurofeedback. I bet somebody out there is like, ooh, I have a friend with epilepsy. I need to tell them. Neurofeedback is what it's called. But they also have a lot of success with, you know, brain injuries and depression and trauma, PTSD, because you're the same path all the time in your brain, and it knocks you off that path. So you're able to think in a different way. Like, it's actually changing the efficiency of your brain. So very cool stuff. But mine's not a brain thing, and I think brain health enough just because it's not one of my core issues, but it's certainly part of the community that we all have of like neurological, emotional, you know, trauma, mindfulness, all that stuff that I'm always talking about in this community of people. Like, it's certainly a thing for a lot of people, and who am I kidding? Like, it's really a thing for everyone. Like, I've it's not like I've got a perfect brain, like whatever, but it's just not one of my code reds. I'll say that. I've got some other code reds. Okay, so that's neurofeedback. There are places you can go and actually get it done, but I think that if it's something you really want to give like a solid try, it's going to be cheaper. I know the place I went to, you could rent it for like $600 a month or something like that, but you could even see if you could find some used equipment and do it at your house, you know, every day. Otherwise, I think the sessions can be like, you know, a package, maybe like $60 a session or something. And if you want to do it 5 days a week, I mean, that's up fast. So that's number 2. Okay, now let's talk about like what you put in your body. And I'm not especially even talking about diet. I'm actually talking psychedelics. So ayahuasca is something that has played a big part of my life. Kind of like the first time I did it was 7 years ago, and it changed me forever. And if you don't know what ayahuasca is, it's a medicine, and it is a medicine. Like, people who think it's not a medicine have never done it. Never once have I met someone that told me that that isn't a medicine, like a therapeutic health medicine. Like, no one has ever told me that's done it. So it's a belief system. I'm pulling on psychedelics here. I'm pushing on some people's buttons and belief systems for people who think it's only a recreational drug, when that's not actually other people's reality. That might be your reality, but it's not everyone's reality, because some people have gotten a lot of like therapy from it. Like their life improved in a healthy way from it, and it was not recreational. It was not recreational for me at all. It was the scariest thing I've ever done. Ayahuasca is the strongest hallucinogen known to man. Well, the active ingredient in it, DMT, is the strongest hallucinogen known to man. So it's like, whoa, but it's not fun. Like, it is not fun, and it's not meant to be. And there is a spiritual side to it and all blah, but that's not the point. My point is that it's very effective for reversing depression, but also for changing the neurological pathways of your brain and finding new neural networks, which is a healthy thing for anyone who has memory loss, brain fog, depression, or some kind of like brain injury, to be able to help some new pathways open up there. And then also there's people that microdose mushrooms, and it's just a microdose. And I've experimented with that a little bit lately, and some people do it for depression. I didn't notice a better mood or anything like that, which I kind of was surprised about for me personally, because people that recommended it to me, that was their experience. But what I did notice, and this was explained to me before I tried it, I did notice like that 5% of new thoughts we have a day On the days I've microdosed, I would say it's more like a 25%. I would say that new thoughts, like, because when we're struggling mentally, we want new thoughts. We want new ways of thinking. We want to open our eyes to something new, whether that's like a new business plan, a new love of, a new way to forgive, a new way to look at ourselves, like we just are looking for that newness to grow. Like, if you're thinking the same 95% thoughts a day, how exhausting is that? How annoying are those thoughts, for real? Like, you're just like, I'm freaking having the same conversation in my head again. Like, it's annoying. So it was kind of like a cool 5% grow to like a 25%, and then it becomes easier to grasp. They're not so overpowered by that other 95% of thoughts you have. I did like that about it. Okay, and then like food, I'll just touch on, I don't think that the whole like let food be thy medicine, like, sure, but in my experience, diet isn't everything. It's just the easiest to quantify and communicate. Like, this is okay and this is not. So it's easier to change, but in my experience, it's been the minority of what's helped me. And I've tried all the diets. Like, majority of what's helped me is kind of stuff I'm talking about. Maybe not this video, but just like getting rid of stress and like helping, like the stress and emotional part has been so much more of what got me sick and what's gotten me better. So anyways, but it is a tool, like changing your diet is a tool to help us, and it does matter, and it is very real. It's just not everything, in my opinion, and my opinion comes from my own experience. So other people may disagree. I mean, so good for them. I wish it was only diet. I would be running around the moon right now if diet could like save your life. Okay, well, it can save your life. Moving on. But I will say with diet, when it comes to brain health, I mean, sure, you hear like the omegas and fish oil and stuff like that, but like my friend who had a brain injury, a really pretty bad brain injury when I was living in Austin, his doctor told him, like, look, I know you like to have a good time. He's like, your brain is healing, and I will tell you, if, you know, off the record here, because he was a doctor, off the record, if you want to dabble with a little bit of marijuana or mushrooms, shrooms, then that's safe. Even may be beneficial for your brain, but stay away from alcohol. He said alcohol messes with the neuroplasticity of your brain. Like, alcohol is not good for health. It's good for a good time, and I'm not gonna quit drinking wine probably ever. I mean, I don't do it a lot. I talk about it a lot just because I love it, but I don't drink a lot. I really don't. But as far as like brain function, if that's like a pain point of yours right now, I would find alternate ways to entertain yourself than drinking, at least until maybe you see some improvements or whatever. Okay, but alcohol, sugar, I mean, they call diabetes, or not diabetes, they call dementia and stuff like that, like diabetes of the brain now. Like, sugar has an impact on your brain. It just does. I wish it didn't because it's delicious, but it just does. Caffeine's going to contribute to anxiety. I don't think it like damages your brain or anything. I don't know. I can't really comment on that, but I do know that it will intensify anxiety and stress. It's very much feeds that flight or fight mode. So if you're living there and have anxiety or whatever, like, you're not doing yourself any favors by allowing caffeine to stay a part of your life right now. Like, switch to decaf. Like, if you're addicted to coffee, then find like a good decaf. They have some, they're good. And you can still get that same energy high in the mornings from like different herbs and stuff like that, which would be a different video, but there's ways to still like, you know, feel stimulated without. Ashwagandha is not a bad one. I don't know, there's ways to like still, like maybe even cacao in it, but cacao also has some other things in it that can still give you like a high or a fix or feed that addiction. If you needed something with maybe a little lighter caffeine load than coffee. Okay. Also, the last thing as far as like diet goes, as far as brain health goes, there's a book called Grain Brain. And I recommend anyone that feels like they're experiencing brain fog, or they're trying to heal a brain injury or improve their memory, or just improve brain function at all, I would really recommend. It's an audiobook. You can play it while you're cooking, which would be perfect time to do that because it's called Grain Brain, and it just talks about the effects that grain, not just gluten but like all grain, has on brain function. And I can say from personal experience, like I'm not just full of shit. I didn't just read this on a blog, like personal experience, and I have tested this a lot of times because I love grains so much. But my brain function is better when I'm sugar-free and grain-free. It's not my opinion. I've tried to disprove it over and over again because I would love to continue eating it. And I still do eat it from time to time because whatever. Sometimes I just want to party. Like I eat a whole bundt cake on my birthday, whatever. But day to day, I feel better and I'm a happier person. I actually feel, that same feeling like when you're hungover and you feel like a little bit of like depression or like self-hatred when you're hungover. I have that same thing after I eat a lot of grains or sugar. Like it's just like a little, not as strong as, but I'm just like, I feel like a little bit more like down on myself. So anyways, I've noticed that, and I can say from personal experience that it's a very real thing for me. I'm sure it's not for everyone, but it's something to play around with if you really are having some real issues with your brain. If you're not, then whatever. But like if it really is an insecurity of yours, like just have some self-love enough to just give it a try. Okay, so that's number 4. So we got the Brain Light Pro, neurofeedback, psychedelics, and like grain, sugar, alcohol, caffeine free. Some people would say, but I really haven't heard a lot between the tie of dairy and brain health. Gut health, yeah, but brain health I haven't really, which I guess they're not unrelated, but come on, we still got to eat something. Okay, I guess if you want to be like overachiever, you could go dairy free as well. Okay, so number 5 is stem cells. Now this expensive is not a piece of equipment you could just resell. It's way more expensive than the other 2 things I mentioned, but they do have some success, or they've had some success down in Panama, the Stem Cell Institute. That's where maybe you've seen that YouTube video of the Joe Rogan podcast with Mel Gibson and Dr. Ray Orton talking about stem cell. If not, that's something to listen to if you're interested. But, and, Tony Robbins has been down there. It's a well-known clinic. And they have had success reversing brain lesions. Other doctors have said it's impossible to reverse, that the brain lesions are there. They aren't going anywhere. They're permanent. And that has been proven or unproven or disproven in Panama at this. It's called, the website is cellmedicine.com, CELL medicine.com. I wouldn't even say it's over half the time that they're able to reverse it. So I don't want to give the promise that if you save up $23,000 or whatever they're charging to go down, that means it will work for you. I'm just telling you that it's happened. And if I had brain lesions, me personally, I can tell you that I would sell my car. I would live with my parents an extra year. I would do what I needed to do to save the money to go. Me personally, but everyone's different. And so what for one isn't right for another. But just know that that's an option and that it has happened. Those are my 5 things for brain health. But I mean, there's other stuff like, let's see, there's functional neurology is another one. I tried it, but it wasn't my thing, but it does help some people. So functional neurology, just you can Google that and see if there's anyone in your area and maybe just try it. And that's kind of like brain games kind of thing. What else? Tapping. I know like for PTSD and more emotional type trauma, tapping, I think it's EFT, and you can learn how to do that to yourself. So you can like watch YouTube videos and learn how to do it yourself. And it's kind of one of those like, seems a little woo-woo, but I've spoken to people personally who went through the gamut of like all the things and like nothing like helped them. And it was almost like last resort to where they're forced into a corner to like give it a try. And it worked for them. And now they're very passionate about it. And I don't know the science behind that, but that's something to look into, if you're desperate and need something that doesn't cost any money. So you can learn how to do it like through YouTube, or maybe go to Udemy, UDEMY.com, and you can probably buy like an online course for like less than $20 to learn how to do it and become certified, do it to other people. I mean, whatever. What else? I knew there was another one. I wrote it down. I hate when I do this on video because it's just like nails on a chalkboard. I bet it's like I'm just watching someone just sit there and think. How boring is that? That probably will give you brain fog. That'll make your brain go into a tizzy a bit. God, I just had a conversation with somebody about it today. Oh, brain dumping. So this is also something that I think is really cool. I learned this from this lady named Lauren McCowan. She's a recovering alcoholic. And I didn't talk to her personally. She's like kind of famous. But one day I'd like to meet her. I read her book. It's called We Are the Luckiest. That was really good. I think everyone is addicted to something, but it's all different. We have certain degrees of addiction. That's another video, and I'm still like a little shy to talk about my addiction. But it has to do with a certain food. But anyways, so her thing is like brain dumping. So every morning, she's a writer, but every morning, and I've heard of this before, but I like how she practice. And she struggled with like depression, anxiety, and all that, just like with her whole alcoholism addiction thing. And there's so much self-hatred with that, and anger, and feelings you're trying to drink down, and whatever. But brain dumping. So each morning she wakes up, and she spends 10 to 15 minutes every morning, which is not that long. Think about how she wastes 10 to 15 minutes a day, like a ton. So she just does it every morning. First thing she does before she checks her phone, anything, she writes everything that's going through her brain. But the trick is for it to actually work and improve brain function and improve depression and anxiety. It only works if you write down the words exactly as they are in your head. Like you can't summarize, you can't paraphrase, you can't make it sound pretty into like a post you might put on Facebook. Like it's not else's eyes, and it has to be exactly the way the sentence was said inside your head. And I actually put this into practice whenever I was practicing forgiveness like a year ago. I mean, I'm still practicing it, but when it was like really heavy on my heart and like really actually like affecting me day to day, now it doesn't. I've pretty much forgiven and stuff. But at the time, like it just was like affecting my health. And I sat down one day and I wrote out everything that was running through my head just as it was going through my head, and I started laughing. Like in my head, there were very real thoughts and very like, what's the word? Like deserving or authentic, or I was entitled to feel that way, or I was right to feel that way, or they were very real. I wrote them on paper. I started laughing because I was like, I don't really feel this way. Like I was able to disassociate from these negative thoughts and not own them anymore, because once they were on paper, like I read them, I was like, started laughing. I was like, I cannot believe this is like these feelings, they were running through my head. 95% of the thoughts we had the day before, I had them the day before, and forever. And when I finally put them on paper and looked at them, I felt so much different about them. I disassociated from them and I quit thinking them. It was like a magic trick. Like I had heard of that practice before, I just never did it because I think stuff like that is kind of annoying, and it just like, it's actually work. It's like homework. It's like sitting down and actually do it. And it's not that fun. But like, I was so glad I did it, and it was so nice, and it was such a weight lifted off my shoulders. And I never gave it to anyone, and I never showed anybody. But just writing those thoughts down exactly as they were in my head got them out of my head. And made it to where I didn't even think that way anymore, because when I read them, I was just like, that's not my personality. That's not how I identify. These aren't things I identify with. Like, this isn't like who I am. These are just like thoughts in my head. Like, I can't believe I like identified with these things so much. They're ridiculous. They're stupid. Like, I'm embarrassed to even say them out loud. But in my head, they felt so validated. But anyways, so those are ways to kind of help brain health. And anyways, I'd be curious if you check any of them out. And if you do, I would love to hear how they go for you. Don't be a stranger.